This is Radio Imanzi broadcasting from Kigali. Here is the news in English, brought to you by Fiona Omuganwa. The headlines. President Paul Kagame says the COVID-19 pandemic has slowed development gains and in some cases reversed that progress, but we have to look for a silver lining out of this crisis. The Ministry of Justice today launched a project dubbed Dufatanye Kubaka Ubutabera. Rwanda, through the Ministry of Gender and Family Promotion, has received 4 million euros to implement a new project dubbed Prevention of Sexualized and Gender-Based Violence. The International Criminal Court prosecutor has launched an investigation that could target senior officials believed responsible for war crimes. Now the news in detail. We have to look. President Paul Kagame says the COVID-19 pandemic has slowed development gains and in some cases reversed that progress, but we have to look for a silver lining out of this crisis. We can build an Africa that is greener and more resilient with the Sustainable Development Goals and Agenda 2063 as our blueprint. The President was addressing the 8th session of the Africa Regional Forum on Sustainable Development at the Kigali Convention Center.
Over the years, Africa has made significant progress to tackle socio-economic challenges. However, the COVID pandemic has slowed development gains and in some cases reversed that progress that had been made. But we have to look for the silver lining in this crisis. Throughout our response, we can build an Africa that is greener and more resilient with the Sustainable Development Goals and Agenda 2063 as our blueprint. The truth is that we were off track in achieving these targets even before the pandemic in some cases. Instead of being a setback, pandemic response and recovery can be used as a springboard to speed up progress and innovate smarter ways to invest in human capital development.
We shall bring you the whole speech after the news. Please stay with us. The forum was held under the theme Building Forward Better, a green, inclusive and resilient Africa poised to achieve the 2030 Agenda and Agenda 2063. Rwanda, through the Ministry of Gender and Family Promotion, has received 4 million euros to implement a new project dubbed Prevention of Sexualized and Gender-Based Violence. The 3-year project, which is funded by the main German development agency GIZ, is expected to avail more knowledge on gender-based violence and strengthen the capacity of different stakeholders working in the sector, among other benefits. Janet Bayisenge, the minister at Migeprof, said that Rwanda has made great advancements in the area of gender equality and women empowerment. However, she added that there are a number of areas that still prevent people with the possibility and chances to participate fully in the development of the country. Speaking on the same occasion, Svenja Jules, German Minister for Economic Cooperation and Development in Germany, commended Rwanda for being the pioneer in gender equality, which reflects her objective. She pointed out that her goal is to develop feminist policy, which means that the rights of women, girls must be strengthened. Rwanda is doing very impressive work with the one-stop centers and the safe houses it has all over the country. The Ministry of Justice today launched a project dubbed Dufatanye Kubaka Obutabera, with support from the USAID Rwanda Legal Aid Forum in partnership with Haguruka NGO, the Rwanda Bar Association, Dignity in Detention, and the Network of Lawyers of Hope in Rwanda. The project will support legal aid providers and alternative dispute resolution for the next 5 years. The event was preceded by the visit of the United States Charge d'Affaires in Rwanda to the Legal Aid Call Center. The discussions focused on the use of the 845 platform. In the framework of launching the project, Haguruka NGO presented 2 activities whereby the legal aid providers from Kigali sector conducted mediation sessions and a mobile legal aid clinic where lawyers offered legal aid services to residents of Nyabugogo Cell, Kigali sector. The Ombudsman, Niyere Madeline, has called on the community in Kinihira Cell, Rwinkwavu sector, Kayonza district, to avoid conflict as it promotes domestic violence. She reminded them of the role of the Office of the Ombudsman in preventing and combating injustice and corruption. The issues raised by the people to the Ombudsman were mainly land disputes and family disputes. The Ombudsman, the district authorities, and the security services resolve the raised issues, and the rest will be monitored by the district and the Office of the Ombudsman. The Directorate General of Immigration and Immigration is encouraging Rwandans to transition from machine-readable passports to the East African e-passports. In June 2019, the Director General, Immigration started the issuance of the e-passports, a move that other East African countries, including Kenya, Tanzania, and Uganda, have also embarked on. An agreement between East African Community member states targets that machine-readable passports are phased out within 2 years from the date of issuing of the first e-passports. The Directorate encourages all Rwandan citizens to apply for an e-passport at the earliest possible opportunity before the planned phase-out of machine-readable passports scheduled on 27th June 2022. Rwanda has established a post in Medica on the Ukraine-Poland border where its citizens will be facilitated to cross into Poland. The country, however, will only help those who make it to the border. The government deputy spokesperson, Ale Mukurarinda, says there are no means to help Rwandans who are stranded inside Ukraine. The announcement comes following an outcry by Rwandan students in Ukraine who say they were stranded in unsafe zones with no food and no means to flee. According to the deputy spokesperson, there were 86 Rwandans in Ukraine, and 51 of them have been evacuated to Poland and Hungary. 15 are still stranded in war zones in Ukraine.
Some items of international news on Radio Imanzi.
17 African countries abstained from voting as the United Nations General Assembly overwhelmingly voted to condemn Russia's invasion of Ukraine. A total of 141 out of 193 member states voted for the United Nations draft resolution to deplore Russia's takeover of Ukraine, while 35 countries abstained and 5 voted against. The vote, which is mostly politically symbolic but lacks legal strength, means the United Nations has declared Moscow's decision a violation of the United Nations Charter, especially on issues of territorial integrity. Some 35 countries abstained from the vote, including Russia and China, African states, Burundi, Senegal, South Sudan, South Africa, Uganda, Mali, and Mozambique, and long-standing allies Cuba and Nicaragua. Rwanda voted yes in favor of this resolution to firmly support that sovereignty, independence, and territorial integrity of any country must be respected. The government of Rwanda says that the long-lasting solution to the current crisis is primarily in the hands of Russia and Ukraine. Mozambique President Filipe Nyusi today fired the country's prime minister. This was announced in a statement from the presidency. Mr. Carlos Agostinho de Rosario was appointed Prime Minister in 2015 after serving as the country's ambassador to Indonesia and East Timor. According to the statement, Ms. Lydia de Fatima de Graça Cardoso was also removed from the post of Deputy Minister of Health. The development comes less than 24 hours after President Nyusi fired 6 other top-ranking ministers from his cabinet. He fired Finance and Economy Minister Adriano Afonso, Mineral Resources and Energy Minister Ernesto Marques Elias, Minister of Industry and Trade Carlos Mesquita, Minister of Public Works, Housing and Water Resources João Machantine. He also fired Minister of Combatants Carlos Sidia and Augusta Maita, the Minister of Sea, Inland Waters and Fisheries. The government of Madagascar has ramped up its response following the devastation of tropical cyclone Emnati on February 23rd. President Andry Rajoelina is touring the country with personnel from the United Nations and other partners to visit the affected areas. They are distributing food assistance, water and hygiene kits, and emergency health supplies, and supporting the Ministry of Education to rehabilitate schools. Non-governmental groups and the government plan to disperse cash to over 108,000 households to support essential needs and shelter repairs. Sao Tome and Principe has been plunged into darkness after its water and electricity company suspended electricity supply for lack of fuel to run generators that provide power in the country. It relies on generators to provide electricity in the country, with the blackout disrupting business. Only essential facilities such as schools and the military barracks were exempted from the power cuts. The announcement on power cuts followed a decision by the National Fuel and Oil Company to suspend the movement of tanker trucks to the city of Nives, capital of Lemba district, where its fuel reservoirs are located. According to a statement read over the state-owned radio, the suspension is attributed to the risk of collapse of the bridge in the Ribeira Funda community, making the route unsafe. The situation led the company to make cuts until a solution is found for the transport of fuel to the city of Sao Tome. The International Criminal Court prosecutor has launched an investigation that could target senior officials believed responsible for war crimes, crimes against humanity, or genocide amid a rising civilian death toll and widespread destruction of property during Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The International Criminal Court prosecutor, Karim Khan, announced the probe after dozens of the court's member states asked him to take action. British Foreign Secretary Liz Truss said an investigation by the International Criminal Court into Russia's barbaric acts is urgently needed, and it is right that those responsible are held to account. The Ukraine State Emergency Service has said that more than 2,000 civilians have died since the Russian invasion, a claim that was impossible to verify. Economic news is a regular feature on Radio Imanzi. The Rwanda Stock Exchange Market Report of today. Today's trading session recorded 5,232,500 Rwandan francs worth of bonds traded in 4 deals on the fixed income market, and 1,759,500 Rwandan francs from 39,100 shares traded in 1 deal on the equities market. I&M Bank counter closed at 45 Rwandan francs. The trading session recorded a total turnover of 1,759,500 Rwandan francs from 39,100 shares traded in 1 deal. Bank of Kigali closed a counter at 250 Rwandan francs. Bradgwa closed a counter at 125 Rwandan francs. Simergwa at 120 Rwandan francs. MTN Rwanda at 180 Rwandan francs. Equity Bank at 440 Rwandan francs. Kenya Commercial Bank at 370 Rwandan francs. National Media Group at 1,200 Rwandan francs. Uchuri Supermarket at 104 Rwandan francs, and RH Buffer closed the counter at 526 Rwandan francs as the market closed. The currency market review of today. The Kenyan shilling buying price was 8.8 Rwandan francs, and the selling price was 9 Rwandan francs. Tanzanian shilling buying price was 0.43 Rwandan francs, and the selling price was 0.44 Rwandan francs. The Ugandan shilling buying price was 0.28 Rwandan francs, and the selling price was 0.288 Rwandan francs. Burundian franc buying price was 0.5 Rwandan francs, and the selling price was 0.51 Rwandan francs. The US dollar buying price was 1,005 Rwandan francs, and the selling price was 1,025 Rwandan francs. The British pound buying price was 1,348 Rwandan francs, and the selling price was 1,375 Rwandan francs. The euro buying price was 1,116 Rwandan francs, and the selling price was 1,138 Rwandan francs. Today's weather forecast from the Rwanda Meteorology Department. From 6 in the evening to 6 in the morning, it is expected to be mostly cloudy in all parts of the country. The average wind speed expected is between 2 meters per second and 4 meters per second. The minimum temperature is to be 11 degrees Celsius tomorrow morning in Nyabihu district. With that, we come to the end of tonight's edition.
Excellency Amina Mohammed, Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations, Honorable Minister, Harriet Sudan, Nono Chair of African Regional Forum on Sustainable Development, Dr. Vera Songwe, Executive Secretary of the Economic Commission for Africa, Honorable Ministers here present, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. Let me start off by confirming what Amina Mohammed said. I want to confirm that I'm very comfortable on the stage here. Outnumbered 1 to 4, including the moderator in chief, and you know, somebody might argue that that's not gender equality, but it is, because I know you'll find out soon that maybe somewhere else on stage it is just 5 men without a woman at all. So if you take 1 to 4 here and then 5 men there, I think it is not a bad balance. I am pleased to join you today to open the 8th session of the Africa Regional Forum on Sustainable Development. First, allow me to welcome you to Rwanda. We are happy to host you. I also wish to thank the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa under the leadership of Dr. Vera Songwe for the good work being done to advance our continent's development. Over the years, Africa has made significant progress to tackle socio-economic challenges. However, the COVID pandemic has slowed development gains, and in some cases reversed that progress that had been made. But we have to look for the silver lining in this crisis. Throughout our response, we can build an Africa that is greener and more resilient with the Sustainable Development Goals and Agenda 2063 as our blueprint. The truth is that we were off track in achieving these targets even before the pandemic in some cases. Instead of being a setback, pandemic response and recovery can be used as a springboard to speed up progress and innovate smarter ways to invest in human capital development. Allow me to mention 3 specific actions for your consideration. First, Africa must build mutually beneficial partnerships to strengthen its capacity to manufacture vaccines and pharmaceuticals. The Economic Commission for Africa has been working on this for some time in the context of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. Africa CDC and AUDA NEPAD have jointly led the way on the need for the African Medicines Agency, which has now come into force. And last year, African CDC brought together key stakeholders in the Partnership for African Vaccines Manufacturing. This initiative laid the groundwork for BioNTech's commitment to produce mRNA vaccines end-to-end in Ghana, Senegal, and Rwanda, starting later this year. Second, Africa should prioritize domestic resource mobilization to finance its development, particularly for national health systems. Progress has already been made for domestic health financing on our continent, and we should build on this momentum. Lastly, to support Africa's green growth, the African Continental Free Trade Area should be used to promote the adoption of sustainable technologies and infrastructure. To achieve the SDGs and Agenda 2063, the goals need to be integrated in our national planning frameworks, and it won't happen on its own. It is essential to have strong mechanisms to monitor progress and quickly adjust implementation. I commend this forum for showcasing the benefits of voluntary national and subnational reviews. Building the Africa we want is up to us. We have to own and lead the process and support one another. That's why these two development agendas are so important. It's about ensuring the stability and prosperity of our continent so that our young people can have the future they deserve. I hope that your deliberations in the coming days will set the tone for Africa's position ahead of the high-level political forum on sustainable development. Before I end my remarks, once again, I want to thank you, Deputy Secretary General of the UN, Dr. Amina Mohammed, for your contribution to this continent and through the UN to the global community on many agendas that were mentioned earlier, and thank you for your presence here. Once again, I thank all of you for gathering here in our capital. Feel at home and come back very often. I thank you for your kind attention.